Good morning, Sam.
Good evening, Mallory.
Welcome back to Nobody Leaves, the podcast where we force each other to watch our favorite media every week. We're back in the biz, episode 2. Happy 2025.
You know, most podcasts don't make it to episode 2.
Yeah, we're really breaking a lot of ground here. But I really think that, like, episode 2 is, like, the big hurdle because... Okay, never mind.
No, you don't. Yeah, dude, you're sitting there. Don't be a faker.
I just thought I was just trying to go with the joke, but I was anyway. I haven't talked to anyone today because I've been working on my shelf. What do you think?
Wow. The YouTube creator urge to buy box shelves and fill them with stuff.
It's gorgeous.
You want to walk us through some of the theming you got going on? I see there's a lot of Pokemon.
So the whole top row is Pokemon because I just have so many, and it's like I don't know where the fuck else I would possibly put them. This is like because Pokemon has like Pokemon Fit, which are like they're making a plush of like every single character from or every single Pokemon from every generation, like generation by generation. They've been releasing them, and they're all like the same size, and none of those are visible in this shelf. And I have a lot of them. I counted. I have 16 of those, and there's no room for them. These are all my big size Pokemon plushes, but they're all my medium size because my large size there's also not space for.
Are they called Pokemon Fit because
they
can fit in a Japanese apartment? Is that like the idea? Like they're like a normal size stuffed animal? Yeah,
I can show you. Like they're all just kind of stuffed in like the bottom of my shelf, but like they're like this size.
I gotcha.
So they're all like kind of a uniformish size, but then
they're small.
These are like
much bigger.
The bigger ones.
They don't look as big because they're farther back, but they are big, right?
Yeah, they're medium. They were just kind of in a big pile because I moved apartments recently, so they're just like a big mess on my floor. Small, medium, large, all together in an amalgamation. Now they're separated, so. But yeah.
And it looks like you organized them by color.
Yeah, I tried to. I was originally going to do all ghosts here, but it just looked way better to like put like, I got like Lechonk and I got Zigzagoon up there.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking at the green block mostly. It's like the one that's not blocked by your head.
Yeah, this is my little grassy corner, but I think I added like Wooloo in there.
Mm-hmm. I don't have... I do have one Pokemon behind me. I have the Ditto kind of hanging out.
Oh, that's cute.
I forgot about the Ditto.
Yeah.
And then I've got Hollow Knight, who's always like peeking out around the corner.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this shelf is chock full of references to stuff I'm probably going to make you watch because it's all my favorite stuff.
You sent me a picture earlier, and yeah, it is Mallory coded for sure. We've got Steven Universe back there.
Yeah.
Monogatari second season, I see peeking out with Nautico. What else?
I realized I had so much Nautico stuff that I could make a Nautico only block.
The Danger Noodle block.
Yeah, like there's even. I have this little glass snake that I got.
That is the most obscure merch ever. Is it actually branded Monogatari? Or it just fits?
No. I got it from a glass workshop.
But it's a heavy. It's white snake.
Yeah, I feel like Japanese they do the white snake thing. It's also Year of the Snake, Happy 2025. So I've been thinking about getting another snake to add to the area there.
Does Japan have a zodiac that matches Chinese zodiac, or is it just all the Chinese zodiac?
Yeah, they're big into the Chinese zodiac thing because I think it's tied to not Buddhism. I'm gonna sound so stupid, but
Taoism,
a lot of the
maybe,
temples yeah, a lot of the Buddhist temples that they have in Japan will have the zodiac animals heavily themed for each year and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it I think is merch, but then it's also a thing of you're born in this year, so then they'll get the baby a bunch of stuff that seemed about that year, or like if you're like you're the cow person, then you're like waiting for the cow. I forget which year. I'm thinking I'm cow or sheep.
I thought
We're the same year.
We're the same year, and I thought we were ox, but I don't quite.
Oh, we're
remember.
ox.
Are we ox? Does that sound right?
I always get it confused because what's the difference between a cow and an ox?
So,
Right.
do you want to jump into Undertale, or do you want to keep talking?
Let's talk about Undertale. So Sam, you have
Mallory.
played Undertale.
I have.
Uh,
It took me 9 years
the
to get to
past
it,
week.
but I have finally played Undertale.
Yes. Yeah, I was looking up when it came. A big part of my like reflection on this, I feel like going into it is like realizing that it came out in 2015 and
Mhm.
it's like 2025 now. Like we're about to hit the 10-year mark. So like, I think in my head I've always kind of categorized it as like a newer game, and I mean it is still like relatively new, but like I'm realizing more and more like, oh, that's kind of my childhood game. Even though I was like 18, I was kind of on the way out of childhood. It's still
Right.
like, oh, that was a little bit formative for me. Like I feel like that's kind of the impression I've been like thinking about.
Well, it's like it's like
but yeah.
in life, it's like anything post-COVID to me is new. Anything pre-COVID is also new, and then anything be it before 2010 is old. But it's not. It's like anything before 2018 is old now.
Yeah.
And that hurts a little bit. That stings.
Yeah, 2018 being old is still a little weird, but
But
I
it
mean,
is. I mean, it's like
we're there.
yeah, we're going into 2025.
2020 is a little old. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's 2020 is 5 years ago now.
I think everyone like culturally does the thing where they just like delete like 2020 and 2021. Like it's only really been 7 years instead of 10, or 8 years instead of 10, because you just cut out those like blank years where nothing came out and nothing happened really. Although I guess video games came
Yeah.
out consistently still then.
Yeah, that's one thing is like I feel like a lot of media came out like one thing like the sequel / just like next project that Toby Fox, creator of Undertale, made, Deltarune, like he had intended to release like all of the remaining chapters in like a single release, and he released like the second chapter early, like during COVID.
Right.
And that's like one thing of like, I'm like, there's so much like really good media that was released during COVID because it was just kind of like pushed out as like a kind of like
here you go. Everyone have fun while
inside your little quarantine cell.
Exactly. I think the video
Yeah.
game like industry grew like a whole bunch during COVID and then shrunk again like out of it, which is why it's been and part of why it's had so many layoffs in the past 2 years.
Yeah, same for like streaming, like streamers and stuff like that. You know,
I think
like,
Twitch,
just in general,
revenue is like went way up and then like shrunk back down,
right?
which is interesting.
Definitely.
Now that people can like go to a park again and stuff like that, go outside.
Yeah. So Sam, would you rather have been at a park than play Undertale?
Well, it was an interesting way to. I had some time off, so it was an interesting way to spend that time off playing Undertale. I felt like the intended audience because I'm about to jump into like a diet, which I do at the beginning of every year. So I was like, all right, this is my last week to like eat badly. So I'm literally like eating fast food, drinking soda, eating holiday candy, and playing Undertale. Like I felt like the target audience, which is maybe mean, but that's just like, I was like, oh man,
You're in the zone.
I get these references.
Yeah.
Now I understand. I have thoughts about it being a 2015 game. I feel like if I had played it in 2015, it would be like the most hot, relevant, like spot on game as far as the comedy goes.
Yeah.
But it now feels a little dated. Like it feels, it's not quite like 2010 Reddit, but it is kind of there where like the comedy has changed over a decade now compared to when it was like things like having a tsundere plane, right? Like that feels, It's like, then it was like niche, and it's like, oh, anime is still this quirky thing that people sometimes watch, and now it's like, all right,
this podcast is about to get so vitriolic. My favorite character in the entire fucking game is literally the tsundere. There's literally, if you were gonna ask me my favorite character, it's the fucking flame.
I'm gonna be on trial here. This is gonna be interesting.
But I think you are definitely right. Like, I think that the way that anime is or liking anime is treated is definitely something that, like, probably I can see that aging a lot, and it's something that I definitely thought about. Like, it was, I think, when I played it in 2015, it was one of the first times I'd seen, like, playing or like watching anime being like depicted in that way,
right?
In a kind of like loving way.
Yes,
because I think like the cringiness of being like super obsessed with like this anime series being depicted in a loving way, in ways that I feel like most other media would either treat like a anime fan as like a little bit like freaking nature-y.
Well, like Toriel is like a positive, not Toriel, no, Alphys.
Yeah, probably Alphys.
I
feel like other people say Alphys, and I've always said Alphys in my head, and I've just said it out loud for the first time.
Very, yeah, that's fair. There's gonna be a lot of that, I think, because there's no like voice acting in this game.
Yeah,
very much like a positive, or at least a well-rounded version of a character. Relatable, yeah, a lot of relatable humor, like talking about fan fiction, writing reviews, talking about social media, talking about blogging,
like stuff like the fan fiction and stuff. Like, I feel like the kind of like bias and stigma against that kind of stuff like wasn't necessarily universal, but I hadn't seen like such a major like piece of media like depict stuff like writing fan fiction as like this kind of lovable personality quirk, as opposed to like this kind of like freaky perverted like thing, I guess, you know.
I think the novelty would have hit a little
honestly
harder
was a vibe
if I was playing it in 2015. But even in 2024, I can look at it and go, yeah, this was probably like the shit when it came out for terminally online people, right? Which I am one of, you know. I can sit here and be like, I don't go on Tumblr,
which I was completely above.
I go on Reddit. That's much better, you know. But it's not. I mean, it isn't.
This is very much going to be a Tumblr versus Reddit conversation. We have official licensed Tumblrite and official.
I don't want to stand for Reddit. Reddit's terrible. Everything is terrible. But it's also
I stand with Tumblr.
I can feel
Tumblr Nation.
I can feel Toby Fox as a contemporary in ways that scare me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the best way to, I know you're just like waiting for me to tell you what I did and like who I interacted with and whatnot.
I'm waiting for a little bit more for your opinions, because all I've heard is that you don't like my favorite characters Underplane. But
what I have a really weird comparison to make with Undertale, and it's a comparison I don't think will do much for you, but it might for our audience.
Okay.
The way I feel about Undertale, our audiences, if they exist, our audience that will hopefully exist,
our loving audience. Cutting that. Our audience is huge.
For our millions of fans.
For our millions of viewers.
Exactly. Our listeners. I don't know how podcast terminology works. What I kept coming back to for some reason with Undertale was Deadpool. And specifically, like, the Deadpool movies. I'm not a Deadpool guy. Like, all my knowledge of that character comes from movies. And those movies are, by and large, not my favorite. They're a little bit forgettable. But I am always impressed that they just jam-pack so much humor into them that even if it's, like, a 60% fail rate for me, where, like, 60% of the jokes don't land, 40% do, there's so many that I'm consistently laughing. And that's kind of how I feel about Undertale, but I would say maybe flip that ratio, where like 60% of the jokes landed, 40% didn't, right? But what I'm more impressed by than the actual like writing, although I think the writing is good, and we can get into like the nuances of that. And I've only seen so much of the game. But
Right.
obviously, we'll get into that as well, of whether or not I actually completed the requirement of this podcast, which is finishing Undertale. I'm just leaving you hanging. Mallory doesn't know what I've done.
You're really dangling it. And also, I'm still dangling my outfit, and I feel like that's got to get addressed at some point.
Do you want to address that so you're not sitting in like a onesie or like a furry
just my big
sweater?
My big plush.
Go for it.
I'm dressed as my favorite of the boss characters. My second favorite, only to Sunderplane.
Okay. Your favorite boss character?
Can you figure out who my favorite boss character is?
Mettaton?
Yes.
Okay. Good deal. I could feel while playing that boss, I'm like, this is Mallory's favorite character. Oh shit. The robot come to life. See, even that, like having a boss who's like I don't know what category to put Mettaton into other than like flamboyant, but it's also just like it's glam rock, it's
queer.
I know it's queer. But I don't like I wanted to get more specific, but also not I don't want to assume Mettaton's anything.
Sexuality.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't dug in enough. I don't know what the correct interpretation is.
Yeah,
this is definitely this is a franchise where like I can feel like I've got a red dot like on my forehead, and it's like, all right, I have to say the right thing.
I think that's the thing. Like a big thing of this, and like I have spent the whole time like leading up to this conversation like reviewing a bunch of Undertale stuff, and it's like there's so many Easter eggs that are like missable,
right,
and are just like now common knowledge to me, but are not like.
Having done
like,
one playthrough,
you got to be on the wiki.
I don't know the actual text, and I also don't know what is like the commonly accepted headcanon for people, right?
Right.
And so it's going to be tricky, and you're probably going to reveal stuff to me that I don't realize or didn't pick up on, which is fun.
I will say Mettaton doesn't, and it is Tom, by the way, doesn't necessarily have a canon sexuality, which is something. Like, I guess we're just gonna talk about Mettaton now.
Sure.
we got to address that.
I got at least a Mettaton. I keep wanting to call him like Megaton or like which is a Fallout City.
You want to. It's a delicious R, and it would be cool if it was Metatron
or Megatron.
I think
right, like the
Megatron,
the Decepticon.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like a big aspect of like. Why I like him, like he doesn't really have a canon sexuality or like express any romantic interest. I like that he is purely selfish and just kind of wants views and like
I can relate. Yeah.
Spoilers for like anything because I don't know what ending you ended up with, but like even in his like most redeemed routes, he's just like, oh yes, I do love my fans. I love attention, and he does make a genuine connection with his fans, but like I don't know. I feel like of the characters, he doesn't really care as much about like you.
There's not as much sympathy there compared to
befriending.
Moments you can get with like Papyrus or Undyne.
Yeah. And it's also like I think a big thing was like the context in 2015 for like me, because it's like queer media existed and there were people who were like consuming a lot more like open stuff, but I think for like me, I was like a little bit afraid to touch a lot of it, and then like Undertale comes out and it's like
it's a mainstream game, like right? Like, or a mainstream indie game.
It's this mainstream game, but it's like emo and quirky and that kind of stuff. And then like getting into it and like the reveal, because Mettaton is like a like little microwave box like, running around for most of it, and then reveals this like absolute fabulous body. And I think to me at the time, like pre-transition, seeing like this like male identifying person being just like so fucking like out there and flamboyant and like not giving a fuck, and it's like nobody comments on like, oh, that's really gay Mettaton, which like of course they wouldn't, but like to me that was like oh my god, like they just think it's cool that he's like really fucking like this all the time.
Right.
And I think that was like, I was thinking of like reasons why this series resonated so much to me, and like why it was like one of my first choices to be like, Sam's gotta fucking play this, is because I think that it's just like, I think it was just specific to me. Like the time that I saw that and the place where I was represented like a like fork in the road of me being like, oh, like what if I'm a little bit more fetched? Like what if I'm a little bit more like, you know, like I can be like fucking fruity and still a guy. Basically was like my takeaway
At the time.
But and just also loving his personality and like everything like that. But like nowadays I would say like a lot of media that I consume has characters like Mettaton to the point where like he's not that special, but I think the context that he was like delivered in through that game maybe like expose an audience who wasn't used to seeing a character type like that.
Well, yeah, 2015 I'm thinking about it because I was also living with my sister who was not maybe I don't know if she was realizing it yet or was like in the closet about it, but what is gay, and was like coming to terms with that, I imagine, in like this high school era. Also a big fan of Undertale, has an Undertale tattoo, which we could talk about, but which is fun. She has
You should have made a podcast with your sister.
she would be a better host, honestly. But yeah, she has the despite everything, it's still you, which is a meme, or I know it's a serious moment, but is also like has been memed. I got a little bit of Undertale through osmosis over the past like 9 years, right? Like I knew Sans and Papyrus, I knew they were brothers, I knew their designs. I had heard the term pacifist and genocide route, so I knew that like this was a game,
the kind of concept.
I knew the concept, and so I knew like when I started playing it and they're bringing up the idea of like sparing enemies, I was like, I know that's important. I'm probably gonna screw it up on my first playthrough, but I know that there are hyper specific ways to play this game to get interesting outcomes, right? Like I knew that was the conceit of the game. That does not mean I did not completely screw up in many ways, which I suppose we can get into. So my Undertale journey. I played the game. Let me just go kill, spare, or fail to spare, I think is the easiest way to get through this. Completely killed Toriel. We're still getting a handle on the mechanics. Thought that was inevitable and that she would come back later. She's dead. She's dead my whole playthrough. Whoops. I was like, when is this cell phone number going to become important? And yeah, no, she's just gone. So I screwed that one up.
It doesn't delete her. She doesn't get deleted.
No. I tried to call it at one point.
It's such a good point.
Yeah, no, I tried to call it and no one answers, and it's very sad. The next one is Papyrus. Spared Papyrus, but only because Papyrus beat me. And then I ended up in his garage, which it's like not a game over screen. Like you just fail to kill him, and then you end up in his garage. I was trying to spare him, and so I still went on the date with Papyrus successfully.
Yes. Okay.
Which
good. That's a very important part of the game.
Incredible. Yeah, that's very fun.
That's so good.
Undyne.
Mostly because of the date battle theme. The date battle. I don't want to get too deep in the music, but the date battle theme. I'm so glad that you caught that.
My early favorite track is really dumb. I think it's the Dog Casino track, which I looked up, and it's apparently not even on the soundtrack, but it's just really good music, and it will probably show up in a Tracking Shots video at some point.
Well, we got to be layering these tracks. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the going through the...
Oh, no problem. So, killed Toriel. Whoops. Saved Papyrus. Yay. Sans Undertale. Sans still likes me, which is good. Yes. Undyne might be my, like, on a first playthrough, my favorite part of the game was, like, being stalked by Undyne and then being like, oh, it's a weird fish person. Unfortunately, could not figure out the mechanic and was being stubborn and did not want to look it up on my first playthrough. So Undyne, iced. I learned later you can hang out with her. You can go to her house. Never saw her house. Never had like banter with her. I had the
She's
little
a lesbian.
I've heard. I had a little bit of time to look up some of this stuff, but I don't know a lot still.
Yeah, of course.
Undyne Iced. Little dinosaur kid befriended me, tried to sacrifice himself for me. Very cute. Like that whole like setup of him like following you through the waterfall. This has really good pacing, like building up bosses and then like having a finale with them. Unfortunately,
Absolutely.
my Undyne journey ended there, but they're the character I'm most interested in, who I saw the least of, probably.
I'm excited to gab about her. But
Indeed.
I want to know about your progression, and then we can go point by point.
Kept moving on. Hung out with Alfie, I think is how people call her.
Alphys, yeah.
Alphys is, I know the name, but I think people shorten it to Alfie. Is that right?
Alphys.
I texted you
I
this.
think a Z sound.
I've been calling her Fail Girl Scientist, so that's what like I think of.
That's it. She was fail girl before we were calling people fail girls.
Exactly.
So then when you said that, I was like, oh, of course she's a fail girl, but like that's like how old this game is, basically.
Right.
Like we weren't using the terminology, but yeah.
I was on good terms with her. I think I messed this up as well, but anyway, I got to Mettaton. Saved Mettaton successfully, which is good. That was a challenge. That's one of the only bosses I died to. And had to reset and successfully like got the ratings to 10,000 and saved Mettaton.
Yeah.
Very fun.
That was my hardest boss fight because like you were saying about the mechanics, like I was able to figure them out, except for Mettaton took me a really long time to understand the ratings
to me, it was just like, oh, I can tell that this number getting bigger is positive. And so I was like, how big can I get this number without killing Mettaton? And I did it.
Yeah. I wasn't paying attention to the number, and then I was like, why am I not beating this boss?
I also didn't have a good weapon
yeah.
at the time. Like, I think I was still using the punching glove. So I could attack Mettaton a lot without killing him, and that would boost my ratings, right? So I only had to get it a certain amount, and then I was able to successfully wound him enough to clear the like end state, right? Like solve the puzzle by brute forcing it, which is a theme of my playthrough.
Yeah, we should say like it seems like a lot of this is definitely being influenced by you having a very short amount of time to complete this game.
Yes, I had enough time
like
for one
your
playthrough,
decisions.
And I was being pretty stubborn. I did not want to look up anything, so this is a true first playthrough. The only thing I knew was there is a genocide route, there is a pacifist route, and I knew the flower was evil.
Yes.
I'd heard Flowey mentioned before, and seeing like the angry face, evil. Like
that's the thing. People think that Sans is cringe. Flowey is cringe. when we get really, we're gonna talk about Flowey. I love Flowey.
Well, knowing that going in, like. When you first see that character, it's like, oh, well, I know this is more important than it seems, and they're the first person you interact with. But also seeing the little references to them the entire game was really cool, like, going in. Like, I think that, like, there's a reference to Papyrus talking to the flowers that, like, record your conversations and speak back to you. Like, Sans makes
the echo flowers.
And Sans, like, has a moment with you at the bar. It's very noir style, where he's like, you heard about these flowers, and it's like, oh, I haven't. I'm sorry, fans, I haven't heard about them. All that was great. Flower imagery, like peppered throughout the game, and kind of knowing that was important without knowing why. Very cool.
Yeah.
Save Mettaton. I think there's only like one choice with Alphys, but I think I screwed it up because I was being mean to them because I knew that I had figured out that they were the reason my progression through Hotlands was bad, like was going badly.
Yeah.
I had kind of picked up on it a little bit before the final confrontation, before Mettaton like lays it all out there.
Yeah, and like reveals that it's all kind of like orchestrated to
have her be in the adventure, cool, right?
And be part of and be indoctrinated to be your friend,
Right. Very cool idea, but I kind of picked up on enough of the clues that it to me, I like knew that I don't know how much choice you actually have there, but I think there's like one moment where I can say like thank you or say nothing, and I said nothing, and I don't know if that's significant to my ending, because I did get an ending.
Yes.
So Mettaton saved. Got to the king Asgore.
Asgore.
Yes. First of all, very, very cool. Him taking out the mercy button, just excellent.
Yeah.
This game pushes, I know it's like the ultimate game maker like success story, but Toby Fox is very smart, I think. Like I have a new appreciation for this guy who all I've known about is his music, but really pushing what a UI can do in really creative ways. Having Asgore like knock out the mercy button, having the buttons be things that you can pick up like in fights later on, how much the bullet hell segments changed mechanically depending on who you're fighting. All of that's really great. Got to Asgore, tried to save him. Flowey killed him. Whoops. I did talk him down, and then Flowey killed him, which is too bad. So I didn't get to spend a lot of time with Asgore. I don't know if that's ever possible.
Yeah, I mean I'll say like not really. Like there are endings where he lives, like as I'm sure you predicted, but like it is like the end of the game pretty much. Like
right,
so you only ever get so much time with him, but yeah.
Fought Flowey, had that whole adventure. Had Flowey corrupting the saves. Had to get real meta, very Doki Doki Literature Club, which is fun. Or I guess that's very Undertale, I guess. It's interesting where this game sits in like the modern day indie game, right? Because it has very meta elements. It has very like not Metroidvania, like it's not a Metroidvania, but it is like a throwbacky style. Like I know Earthbound is like the comparison point, and I know games like Amori have like taken a lot of inspiration from Undertale, which has taken a lot of inspiration from Earthbound, and it's all very fun.
Yeah. And Doki Doki, honestly, like all the weird stuff with like save files and
right. I mean, like thematically, Doki Doki feels like a really interesting comparison point with like
in terms of like meta stuff,
with what's her face, and feels very much like Flowey. Not Makima. What's her name?
Monica.
Makima is a Chainsaw Man villain that also has kind of similar vibes.
Yeah, and it's curious. I'd love to talk more about the Deadpool. Or we're gonna talk about like meta stuff in general,
right?
Yeah, it's Deadpool coming up. That is also an interesting comparison. But yeah,
to me, I wasn't thinking so much about the meta. It's more just I was really impressed with is the humor style, like overwhelm you with comedy. Everything I clicked on was a joke. Everything I clicked on multiple times, and it had different like secrets. Everything was a joke. Every item I bought, every item I could have bought and didn't, every shopkeep I like interacted with. There's a joke around every corner in this game, and I thought that was really, really cool. And very impressive. Like it is a jam-packed experience that I beat in like 6.5 hours, something like that. Beat Flowey, that was difficult. I don't know how. It only took me a few tries, but I don't know how much of that is the game allowing you to win as you go forward. Like I don't know what the mechanics are, but essentially once the previous human souls started helping me, I beat it in one try.
No, it gets a lot easier at that point. Yeah,
I beat it in one try from that point, but I don't know how much of that was like scripted. But it felt very challenging regardless.
It's not script. You absolutely can still die at that point, but it because the like you're getting like healing items, it feels very like set up for you to like it's a kind of thematic like the tides of this battle have turned feeling moment, where it's like it more feels good and is maybe like not as challenging. Although there are like no-hit people who run this game and like try and
I was thinking that as well. I'm like, I bet there's
still hard.
A crazy person. I could feel this game having its own like Dark Souls style community. Like, I beat the game no
yeah,
hit, and I did a genocide route, and da 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 da
yeah.
da. Defeated Flowey.
Mhm.
The ending I got, I don't know how familiar you are with the neutral endings, if you can predict this, but
I've really been looking through all of them so that I'm super well versed and up to date on them.
I got my
'Cause
Sans
it's been a while since it
phone
came out.
call, Sans Undertale phone call,
Yes.
featured in Smash
Mm-hmm.
Brothers Ultimate. Um, Mettaton took over. It seems very bad. It seems like I left the.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I left the ruins in a much worse place, it seems like. Because I killed Toriel. Alphys is also missing. Undyne is missing because they're dead. I have left the ruins in the hands of a megalomaniac, which is fun, but unfortunate. Because I thought I was doing a pretty measured playthrough for the most part. But yeah, I looked up what the neutral endings can be, and it looks like I got one of the worst ones. But
It's a rare one. Like,
right.
it's honestly because I think most people go for genocide or go for pacifist,
Right.
or they
Or
kill
they save
characters
the
based on whether they like or dislike them, rather
Right.
than like the it sounds like a lot of your stuff was decided like on based on like challenge level of like mechanics and stuff like
yes,
that.
mine was very much mechanically like not knowing how they worked early on, and then also I couldn't solve Undyne's puzzle. I didn't spend a lot of time with it because I was kind of on a rush, but I retried Undyne twice, and I was like, I don't know how to talk you down from this situation. Also, this fight is like probably my favorite mechanically. It was just really fun, like the rhythm game aspect of it.
The little shields, and they start having the arrows come down backwards. And
yes,
like, go around
I hate
stuff.
those.
Like,
the gold
that's
arrows
fun.
were like annoying as hell, but they were really, it was very challenging, and it felt very like climactic, even though it's only at the halfway point of the game.
Yeah.
Or maybe the 2/3.
No, Undyne's an awesome boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I'll talk a little but I'll talk a little bit about the endings and also like my playthrough of the game as well.
Yeah,
and
I want to hear about it.
Like we can go through specific like bosses, because I feel like there's a Undyne conversation waiting to happen here. Because
I know that
and
like you
that
can
resonated.
have chill conversations with Undyne. Didn't get that at all. Like my entire interaction with her is she shows up and has a fish head. Didn't expect that at all. Her design as being a reveal was very funny. But also like her stalking you as a knight throughout the game, throughout the waterfall section, might be my favorite part of the game, because it's so clever how like she's attacking you in the like overworld, right? Like the normal top-down view, and while doing so, it throws you into those really quick bullet hell sections and then pulls you back out. It I love.
There's a real feeling of being hunted throughout the whole like the section of the game is called Waterfall. Like that whole section really has the feeling of like you being hunted and tracked down, and like is such a good like back to back with the like Papyrus,
right, which is all puzzle themed, right?
Papyrus is like very Team Rocket. Like he is like. The puzzles are all kind of like jokes, really. Like the majority of them can be solved through like just like going through them, and he's like, I didn't set up the puzzle right, like
right.
And he's he's very passionate about killing you, but is obviously very incompetent. Versus like Undyne, it's like, oh shit, like this is like this trained killer who Papyrus has been hyping up to you for the entire like arc that you've been with him. So then, like once you hit that, like the tension building, like that is one of my favorite. And like also, the Monster Kids stuff like provides such a great contrast, and it's so atmospheric. Like
there's a great joke
like, following you around.
Like when the Monster Kids revealed to be like following along your journey is when Undyne like almost kills you in a grass field, and it's like his appearance is both like you're laughing, but you're also like, oh, it's tense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it really like balances it in this way and like adds to the severity. Monster Kid is like I feel like the underrated characters of this game. Like I really enjoy them. Like they're cool.
Well, like but, I just want to reiterate, I really, really like narrative, having hype narrative moments through UI, which this game does
Yes.
in spades. And like, I think my favorite two examples are Asgore destroying the mercy button, just very hype. Didn't know that was coming at all. That was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is like, it had added such a finality to that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, there are no more options. And I think when you try and talk to him, like, it's like there's nothing to say. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then Undyne throwing spears at you in the overworld, and that sending you into like an undodgeable or very difficult to dodge gameplay section. Like, it's so quick, and
Yeah.
it doesn't like interrupt like the chase at all. It reminds me,
Yeah.
I was thinking in that section of Celeste, which is
Mm.
a platformer that I think pushes what you can do with a platformer to its limits. Like, it has really good chase sections, and it has it ties thematically its mechanics and its genre of game very well. Like, it's all like synergizes really well, and I feel like Undertale does that as well with as an RPG, right? I know people talk
Yeah.
about it as being like the anti random encounter game, where like everyone you encounter is someone you can
Yeah.
spare, and how cool that is as like a idea.
Yeah. Totally. And like even moments like the Papyrus like you're blue now moment, it's very much played for laughs.
Hmm.
It's really funny, but it's also like really cool like uh, way of just like introducing them, even introducing the fact that like, oh, these boss fights are all going to contain things that like completely change the mechanics of the game and
Right.
like create these climactic moments like
And I enjoyed that
is very,
way
very
more
cool.
than
Yeah.
the like day-to-day fighting. Like, any time the
Yeah.
mechanics were changed, I think I liked all of them better than the normal bullet hell stuff. Even though the bullet hell stuff
Because they're so
I got used
fresh.
to.
Yeah. I think yeah, like talking about my least favorite aspect of the game is cuz you mentioned like the random encounters like um I think that's like one of the biggest things where I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to go back." Because it's like it it's something I've thought about a lot, and it's like I understand why they're in there because it's kind of like you want to introduce these like little smaller enemies, and they do kind of like serve a like function to the game and like
Mhm.
contain all this humor. Like the encounters can be very fun,
Well, your favorite character
but
is one of them.
like
Is Tsundere
yeah,
played.
exactly. For the best character in the whole game, but it's also like it. The reason why I don't like it is that it can discourage exploration at times, and I think
Mm.
that like as we talked about, like it's such a dense game that like you really want to explore like every fucking like nook and cranny. So to have like exploration become tedious in certain areas because there are a lot of like to be fair, it does kind of limit the areas that contain random encounters at times to like
Mhm.
make it easier to explore. But like I don't like that you still kind of have to like deal with that like sometimes when you want to like revisit areas.
My main
But I
issue
understand why it's there
my main
because
issue is the random
it's
encounters was
yeah.
just that, like, trying to solve the like, how do I pacify this monster puzzle was so much trial
Mm-hmm.
and error that like
Mm-hmm.
I got more of a feel for it as it went along, but it felt so
Yes.
slow and it felt so punishing, where it's like, I'm gonna lose half my health like trying to pet this dog, and it's just gonna
Yeah.
um it's gonna
And
wear
you
me
should be like, I
down.
hate being pet. You're supposed to.
You're supposed to stay
Yeah,
still. That one
exactly.
I
Like,
figured out, but like
yeah.
some of the other, like, I never
Yeah.
figured
Yeah.
out the two dog guards that are like in love. I just like got about
Yeah.
halfway through
Donkey
that
killed them
puzzle
too.
and I killed them. Yeah, I was like, all right, this is whatever. And then they weren't
Yeah.
there for the poker game, and I felt bad at the bar later.
Yeah. I think it's. I think like I probably at this point should just like explain my experience of this
Yeah, I want to
game.
hear it. You've only played the game
So
one time, right?
I've also only done one playthrough, despite being a huge fan for close to 10 years at this point.
Right.
I have looked up and read a lot of wikis and watched a lot of videos and playthroughs and everything, so I know like pretty much the scope of the game and most of what's in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I myself have only played one time. I did look at my Steam prior to this, and it said that I have played Undertale for close to 22 hours. So my playthrough took 22 hours apparently. It's possible that I left my computer on during some points of that, but I remember it taking me a while, and I think there are a few factors. One of them is I'm very bad at video games, and you were saying stuff like, "Oh, this was the only boss that I had to like retry," and like
I think I died
like I didn't want to
4
look anything up.
times in the game outside of Flowey.
I died probably 4 times to like the weaker bosses. Like I'm not good at video games, so like I got better. Like you said with the bullet hell, it's like I don't know if it's fun, but I got used to it, and it's like a serviceable like mechanic. I feel like to.
I think it
carry
definitely
you through
gets
the game,
easier. Like I know there are probably bosses that I haven't fought that would like completely destroy me, but I think that the ones that have special mechanics, I found more easy. Like I found the gameplay flow easier and better for the most part.
Absolutely, but yeah, like I think it's very like I was very motivated to keep going through like for the story. Like that was really like the thing that tied me to it.
I was motivated by this podcast.
during my one playthrough, I went full pacifist. I had also heard like there's like pacifist and genocide routes and stuff like that, but I didn't know like much of the details. But I basically like I really hard committed to like I don't want to like kill any of these creatures no matter how long it takes. I'm going to like persevere and like figure out how to spare them. So like the same with like all these like puzzles with like I had this similar arc of like at first it's like kind of unintuitive, but then you slowly start to get a feel of like usually when you're trying to spare the enemy it's like the less predictable option. It's
right.
Like the one like things like that. Like you get a feel for the sense of humor that the game has and you can like start trying it out like that. But yeah, I at no point killed any enemies. I got to the end of the game with 0 experience points and 0 level 1. However, I technically ended on a neutral ending, and I didn't fully understand this until like today. I kind of understood it, and I was kind of a little bit in denial about it because I was like, I did the true pacifist. I did all these like mini games. There's basically kind of like redemption arc stuff that you do for like each character, each of the like boss monsters after you've spared them, that like allows you to get like the true pacifist ending. So I was like, I did all of that. I didn't kill a single monster, but then I still fought Photoshop Flowey, which is like the nickname given to the
one that
like,
I fought,
big
right?
Mega
Yeah.
Flowey. That's also was my final boss, and then. Apparently, after you defeat that boss, you have to reset to a save file from like before you. I don't know if it's before you fight Asgore, or just before you fight. I think it is because I'm pretty sure that Asgore fight directly transitions into the Flowey fight.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, like you got to reset to before you fight him, and then like go through it again, and that gives you the option to like fully redeem Flowey.
So yeah, the character I never met is Asgore's son, and that's through Azrael, yeah, and that's through the pacifist run, right?
Yes, that is the true pacifist. So I also never fought Azrael. I fought Flowey. But like if you reset, then you get to fight. Like Flowey takes the form of Azrael. You fight him, and then like are able to like redeem him, and that gives you like the true pacifist ending.
Right.
But I got really close, and then I was kind of in denial about it. I didn't like the idea that I hadn't got the true pacifist ending. So I kind of like had this weird mental block around it. And
did you already like reset your save file so you could never go back and do it too?
Well, like I reached the ending, and then it's like it's kind of prevented. So like this is an interesting thing about this game. Is it like it really rakes you over the coals for your decisions if you choose to kill people. But something I was reflecting on it is like it also like it really questions your decisions no matter what they are. Like that's kind of the thing. It's
I hear it gets really meta with like you're making a decision as a video game player right now, aren't you? And I know that's like
that's when you go like genocide is like it starts getting a lot more like you're just playing a game versus like kind of like the genocide where you're killing everyone, which genocide is like you have to go out of your way to achieve. Genocide involves like you're killing like all those like random encounter monsters. What's up?
Oh, Mallory, I'm aware. This
Oh,
podcast
okay.
is called Nobody Leaves.
Yeah.
Nobody left. I may have finished the game like 7 p.m. last night, and I said, well, let me get a full experience of Undertale. So
No.
yeah, so I didn't finish a whole nother playthrough, but I started a genocide route.
Oh my god.
And I am
okay. So I'm not gonna spoil the everything.
I mean, I've kind of like once I beat the game, I started looking stuff up
Okay.
to have a better conversation. But
yeah.
that is incredibly dark. I was very
Yeah.
impressed by how it went from there's a joke around every corner to you're not going to get any of these jokes. I've played up until Snowden Village,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a very different experience doing Genocide Route. Like all the Papyrus and
Yeah.
Sans encounters are like very somber. Like you're just like running through the puzzles, and they're not like the banter is gone. Sans keeps referring to you as not a human. But maybe my favorite detail is that if you can go into Toriel's kitchen, you're looking for the knives to kill her, and I'm like, that is dark. Like I was unfamiliar with your game, Undertale. I didn't think you'd actually like, because it's a little. I didn't think you'd go there because like that detail to me feels so much realer than like it really does feel like you're a psychopath compared to like, oh, I'm mechanically killing these little sprites. Like having those kind of changes I thought was very impressive. And I played up until Papyrus, and then you beat Papyrus in one hit, and it's like you crush his skull, and I'm like, wow, that was intense. So that's as far as my genocide route has gone, but I did want to get a little bit of an experience of like Flowey like making fun of you at the beginning of the game again.
That's crazy because so here's the thing is like
nobody left the ruins.
Basically
now
what I was saying,
I killed them
nobody
all.
is left. It's like because I basically like the genocide route I think is basically takes you to the extreme of like you are a person playing a video game, and the like true pacifist route takes you the closest to like I'm like I'm almost like role playing, like I'm accepting my role as this character in the story and just like leaning all the way into it, and like and it like the way I was saying like it questions your decisions either way. It's like if you try to do pacifist, it's consistently throwing things at you to make you think that there is no way to get through the game as a pacifist.
Right. Like I heard that like I could have even in neutral route, I could have spared Flowey, but like I tried it once and it was like, you an idiot, don't do that. And I tried it twice and it's like, you're an idiot, don't do that. And I was like, all right. And I killed Flowey. But I think if I had done it 13 times, I would have been able to spare Flowey. And I'm like, well, that's just obtuse.
But yeah, like even through like escalating story, it's like Papyrus is like kind of goofy, but like once you hit like Undyne, it's like she's like wearing this like night mask, and it's like no expression, no humanity, and like she's so much more tougher and like everything like that. Then when you get to Mettaton, it's like this unfeeling robot that like does not give a shit about you. Like it just kind of like keeps escalating, and like Asgore's destroying the spare button, yes, like an amazing moment, and is also just like really feels like the game saying like you can't spare this guy, don't even fucking try it. But it's like you can.
Well, it also
like,
thematically
really
feels like he
persevere.
wants to spare you. Like he doesn't want to be here either, but he's committed to his route, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's like continuously like raising that skill, but then at the same time on the genocide route, like watching like recapping all that stuff, it's like all of a sudden the bosses are like pleading to be your friend and showing their humanity and stuff like that, and making you feel like a psychopath. Is like no matter what direction you go in, the game kind of gives you like pushback, and it's like I think when the game came out, so this is where we're getting Tumblr here.
I could not imagine. I cannot imagine being in 2015 playing this with like no information. Like it'd probably be like one of my favorite games of all time if I didn't know a lot about it. Like if I was playing it with no context, all the secrets are there to be discovered. Like I couldn't imagine. It'd be like the only game I've ever had that experience with is like PT, which was like that horror game where you're in a hallway that's looping. Because I played that like pretty shortly after it came out, and that experience of being like, I have no idea what this is or where it's going, is really memorable. And if I'd had that, if I hadn't had 9 years of Sans Undertale jokes and like playing against like Mii fighters and Smash Brothers Ultimate and being like, and hearing Megalovania like no matter what, which I guess I still haven't heard in Undertale, but I know it's like the Sans like boss theme. Like
yeah. You're going for Megalovania. That's all the.
It's the genocide boss, right?
Genocide route. But yeah, like so a big thing on Tumblr back when it, like there were people who would legitimately like be canceling you for even playing the genocide. Like they're like, it's morally wrong to kill these characters because the game kind of like it kind of crosses a like saving and loading files is a diegetic feature of the game,
right? And
like it crosses all these weird meta things, and like the reason why I've never replayed it is because you get to the end of like a pacifist ending, and it's like Flowey's like, we're all like safe and happy now, and the only threat to our happiness being destroyed is you resetting the game because you want to play the game.
And is you the player, not you Frisk, right? Is like a distinction there,
right? Yeah, like it's speaking to you. He's like, if you reset the game, it's possible to like do a genocide run. It's possible to reset and like do another pacifist thing, but he's like, you know, we're all at peace now, and you will cause us like stress by resetting. And like for me, I think a lot of the joy of the game is kind of like leaning into that like role play in a way. So I have never reset the game. It's not because I don't want to get canceled by people on time, because also like everyone grew up and doesn't care anymore. But,
right.
Like there were people who were like condemning it, but like I think it's like interesting and fun, like all the routes, and I've definitely like looked into everything because it's like, I don't know, it's a fun, if you can look at it more as like a fun experiment and like a observation meditation on all these different themes, like it gets a lot more interesting. But
I'm gonna tell you really, that my Undertale is the Nier series, which does all of this but in a 40-hour RPG. And I would almost bet money that Toby Fox has played Nier Reincarnation, which came out in like 2011, because that game plays with the idea of like monsters are more than they seem, and what does it mean to have a save file, and what does it mean to do things over and over again, and what does it mean to like have like, that game has a lot to do thematically with communication, like understand like, and playing and having multiple playthroughs of a game, like all of that happens in Nier Reincarnation. A lot of the same tricks, right? With some variation and some stuff that it does that this game doesn't, and vice versa. But it using game mechanics to narratively emphasize something happening emotionally is maybe like crack cocaine to me. Like I don't think there's anything I love more than a game that mixes things up in a boss battle, or like to thematically like change your opinion on stuff. And you can feel it in some games more than others. Like some games go way out of their way to tie it into the narrative, like having pieces of your UI disappear. Incredible. And then others are just like, we're going to mix up a tried and true formula to mess with you. Like the game, I watched a great video one time on the Dark Souls series as humor, because those are games that like derive a lot of pleasure in the player by how they place enemies. And so they'll do things like they'll have classic, you've probably seen this in Donkey videos over the years, but like there's going to be an enemy behind, like standing behind the door, because there always is. But then you get to Dark Souls 3 and you check behind the door and there is an enemy, but there's also one in the alcove next door. And so it's like, whenever you can feel that connection with the game creator, where they know what you're thinking and they're smarter than you, or even they're just having a conversation like a tick for tack with you, it's just, oh man, it is the best. And Undertale, it seems like, has that in spades, where you can really push at those ending mechanics, and they push back.
Yeah, which gets to one of my favorite elements of the game that plays with your expectations, which is the Thunder Snail minigame, which I don't know if you stopped by this area.
I did. I wasted some money, and then I said, I'm annoyed with this, and I left.
It's literally, you cannot win. There is no win condition. Like, if you start the race and do nothing, you lose.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, press this button to cheer on your snail, and the more you press the button, the more the snail slows down.
My snail burnt out
moving.
like in a fiery crash.
It's like, because you're cheering it on, it stops moving.
It was the
It's
Dale
the
Earnhardt of
funniest
snails.
shit.
Yeah.
So fucking good. I really, really like that.
It was pretty funny.
Like, I will say, like, for me, I think the humor of the game just works so well for me, which is why I was like, it was interesting that you brought up Deadpool, because like Deadpool in almost like every iteration I've like seen him in, like, hasn't really hit, like, it's been a little bit more like 1090 probably on like how many jokes that I'm like, you got me there.
No, that's fair.
And
but
like,
to me, like, that's more how I feel with the most
yeah.
recent one, which I did watch in theaters. But like, I've seen all three of them in theaters for some reason. I think steadily I've like liked them less and less. But I'll be sitting there, like, by the time it gets to Deadpool 3, I'm sitting there, arms crossed, like, Marvel's not even cool anymore. This is lame. But then, like, there'll be a one-off joke or a visual gag or something where I'm like,
yeah,
you know, like it breaks through.
there's definitely, yeah, and it's definitely like, you get the feeling like, oh, there's potential here in this, like, with this character and like the concept and everything to make jokes that can't really be made in like other ways. But yeah, for me, like, I think the humor of Undertale like hits so fucking hard. I love the writing. Like, it just really like gets me, and I think that like so much of it is not like, I think a big part of why it works for me is because it's like an RPG. It's like every time you're clicking on something, it was your choice to click on it.
Right.
And it's like, it's kind of just providing this like little lighthearted like commentary, everything. So it's like, so many of them aren't like bust out like gut busting like laughing or whatever, but it's just like, it just has a certain tone and like way of describing things that I am just like absolutely in love with, and which is like what keeps me coming back, I think, to like Toby Fox projects, basically.
Right.
So that's my take, but I know it's not for everyone, and I know like it's definitely gets its share of like people who are like, I cannot get into like the quirky humor or whatever, which I'm like, I get, like, it's not everyone's cup of tea. But
to me, like, there were times where I found it to be too much. Like, I think Alfie's calling you so much in Hotlands. Yeah, it got a little much. Even though like individual jokes in that like cracked me up. Like when they're talking about the social media site, and suddenly like Papyrus logs on and is making like his own jokes. Like he's like invading this bit. Very funny. Like it's,
no, Alfie's did not hit for me. Like, she was my least favorite character back then, and I think I was also like, when you were saying about like that like the you kind of like picked up on like a little bit that she was like not being really sincere or something,
right.
Like it really like I don't know if I was just dumb, but like I did not really like get what was going on with her for the longest time, which I think made it worse. Like, I think because I rewatched some clips and it's like, oh, it's kind of obvious that she's lying here.
To be fair, I didn't get it until like 3/4 of the way through the area. Like, I got it before they told you what was happening, like outright.
I really did.
But I was also like,
it fully. Yeah.
It took me a while for it to click.
Yeah, and it's like, I think kind of not knowing what's going on, you're just like, okay, this person just like keeps fucking talking to me, and it's like it's hard in a video game where it's like, this character's supposed to be annoying. It's like, yeah, like I get it, and like she makes sense as a character, but yeah, it's a little like tough, I think. But
I could see pretty much every main cast member in this game like really resonating with someone, which I think is really fun.
Yeah,
and then hard to do.
No,
like, it's impressive.
She is a like cool character, like divorced from like that context of like, you're interrupting my like gameplay type of stuff, you know.
Mechanically, that
like,
didn't work for me too much, and also the Papyrus puzzles I felt like were not spaced out enough. Like, to me, the game really picked up after I was done with Papyrus's section.
See, I fucking love the puzzles. I'm just like, puzzle humor is like my bag. Like, I love jokes about puzzles and jokes that are puzzles, jokes involving puzzles. The part where they're like, they set up a puzzle and it's just like a crossword, like
that
like
was a
word
good.
search
I like
that
see
they,
that
like, left
individual
in the-
joke really worked for me.
Yeah,
Um,
like that's really good. The bit about where he's like explaining the really complicated like an orange tile will make you smell like oranges. A yellow tile will
that bit
like, and then
that
it
bit
just,
didn't
like,
work
gives you
for
a
me,
clear
but then
vibe.
the callback did. Right? It's
The callback's really
the
really
callback
funny, but
really
the
worked
bit
for
at the
me.
time, like him wordlessly just spinning away, is just like, I don't know. I really really love that shit. Yeah, I don't know. I think because I'm a lot more in love with the humor in the game, it definitely like carried me a lot more, and it definitely, I think, was what motivated me to explore every fucking like nook and cranny and like interact with every object to
Right.
like see
Playing
what I'm
this on
gonna
a
get.
deadline, like I only really had like 4 days to play it because
Yeah.
I had some stuff going on throughout the week as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying not to do it all in like one session because I thought wouldn't be very fair to the game. So I did like
Yeah,
an area,
definitely.
an area, and then like the last 3 areas, and like over a Saturday. But I could feel the puzzles I did do that were like optional were very funny. I enjoyed them. I'm glad I found Dog Casino. That was very memorable to me.
Yeah.
But I could feel myself missing a lot of stuff as well. Like not, but if I poked, anytime I like poked a corner, I was rewarded, right? With a joke and even possibly a cool mechanic or like a cool piece of equipment that I didn't realize. Like I found I got really obsessed with buying the empty gun from the 2 cat people next to the hotel.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I haven't upgraded my weapon in a long time. And I was like a few dollars short.
Yeah.
So I went back through the lab section. It was the only time I backtracked in the whole game. And I found the frying pan, which I didn't find originally. And then I bought the empty gun. And in doing that, I was like, I'm missing stuff. Like, there's clearly stuff I could have done that I haven't. Like, there's many spots where it's like, if I just built up money, I could buy into this, and it'd probably be like, it would mess with my expectations some way, right? Like, it'd either be a mechanic where you're not supposed to save money and do it, or you get a cool item, and either direction is great because it's like a new, memorable experience.
Speaking of the empty gun, there's like so many like Easter eggs and lore that it's like, okay, you just got to be like reading through the wiki to get like any of this. One of my like favorite things is that the like it's mentioned that there were like 6 human soul. Well, there's 7 total, including like
the first person who fell down, right? Like you're the
first
8th
person who fell.
I was confused by that when I started
the
reading
8th,
up after the ending, and I'm like, I'm the 8th. Oh yeah, there's the original person who's with, who's the adopted child and all that. Yeah.
Yes. And then like because he lost that soul and he needs 7, like that's why he needs like that soul was like used in this like thing with like Azrael, which I don't know like how much lore. Like I'm pretty sure you get.
I've done broad. I got
that.
a lot of it just from the monsters telling me the whole bit.
Yeah.
It didn't
They pretty much explain like most endings. I'm pretty sure like
I understood that Flowey was
Azrael
the result of Azrael dying. I didn't really get that Flowey was Azrael. Like that didn't click for me until I read it later, so it didn't click for me at all. But I understood that Flowey was the result of that. And I did not know that Alphys was involved in that at all. I never found the True Lab, I think it's called, which is like the secret area.
Yeah.
Totally missed all that.
That's where all the creepypasta stuff comes in. Like that is very much an Easter eggy, like if you know you know type thing. But yeah, like
just go get a bunch of new lore. Yeah.
Yeah. But the true pacifist is like revealing that Flowey is like actually literally Azrael without like a soul, basically, is how it's described. So he can't feel like love or anything, so he just becomes a sadistic like little freak. But like Easter egg that I really enjoy is all of the like armor and weapon items in the game, because they're like really weird.
Yes, the
Like,
frying pan
items,
and a
like
boxing glove and the one that I
yeah.
read it and I was like, oh, this is probably significant, is like the
Mhm.
pruning knife. Like, it's good to kill plants, I think is what they call it. Like the last
Yeah.
weapon you can
So
get in the game, or at least I could find.
the mhm. So like there are these like pairs of like items and armor throughout the game that are kind of like thematically paired. So there's like a gun and a cowboy hat, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's a like ballerina shoes and like a ribbon twirler and like stuff like that.
Oh, I never found the ribbon twirler. I
Each
found the tutu.
yeah yeah two oh no tutu yeah sorry
There's a
that's what
tutu. There's a red
tutu
ribbon.
and
There's
yeah, and it's like each of these like there are like these 6 pairs of things that or 7 pairs of things
Got
that
it.
correspond to the humans that came before you.
Got it.
So it's like they're all like themed, and they have kind of like emotional kind of themes as well. So like
Mm-hmm.
there's like you can kind of start to build a picture of like these kids. Like there was a cowboy kid that was concerned about justice. There was a kid that like had a cooking thing and like an apron that was like concerned
Oh
about
yeah,
like
I did find the
kindness.
apron.
Like
I
you
didn't even
can
think about that.
yeah, and then they also map on like really well to the colors of hearts and like attacks that you get hit with.
Right.
So like
Oh yeah, because
the
you get the
yellow
frying pan and like you get the eggs and all that. That makes sense.
yeah, like and then yeah, in the Photoshop Flowey fight, like
Mm-hmm.
it's very explicitly like tied, because like the music also changes to kind of fit like the vibe of each kid, but then it's like the stuff that you get given is fitting the vibe,
And the hard
and then
color
it's
changes
also,
on
like,
the Flowey like monitor and all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then also like throughout the game. So like for example, the cowboy kid is like yellow,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you get the yellow heart in the Mettaton fight, and you can like shoot,
Right.
and then like the blue one is like the ballerina, and then that's the one that allows you to like jump, and then there's like that's the one in Papyrus's fight.
Yeah.
You're,
No,
like,
I'm picking up what
weighted
you're
down to
putting
the ground,
down.
but you jump. And then the green attacks in general are like healing stuff. So it's associated with like the kindness one. There's like the orange is bravery and the light blue is patience, and then like orange attacks like you're supposed to move through them, and light blue attacks you're supposed to
Just
stay
stay
still.
still.
Like
I gotcha.
it's like really deep, but just not like you have to like dig and put all these puzzle pieces together and be like, oh wow, these like perfectly map on like
Right.
thematically like every single one is like, I don't know, it's such a like not I think that's like the other thing that like really fuels people's obsessions with the game is it's not just that like every nook and cranny within the actual like game rewards you with information, but it's like it really rewards like overthinking it
Right.
and making theories and like digging into stuff, because there's like there's like, we're not going to talk about Gaster, but there's a canonical creepypasta character.
I'm somewhat familiar with Gaster. It came up when I was reading.
Yeah.
It's like the previous royal scientist, right?
Yes.
Who will
yeah,
show
and
up in a
his name
room
is,
in like a 1 in 1,000 chance, right?
yeah,
Okay.
and his like name is WD Gaster, so it's like Wingdings. Like, and so then he's like somehow related to like Sans, and then Sans uses a weapon called Gaster Blasters in his fight.
Oh.
And then this character only speaks to you in Wingdings, but like doesn't even speak to you. Like you have to go through text files and you can find some
I
Wingdings
see.
and then be like, and then translate it to get some like cryptic. Like it's like
And it all fits into
it's
the
fucking
font theme of
insane.
Sans and Papyrus, and yeah.
Yeah, but we still don't know. And then there's like so much shit about like Gaster being theoretically tied into like Deltarune that has people just fucking frothing in the mouth.
Well, yeah, that
and he's still not even, we don't even have like, there's a sprite that is commonly associated with him that
Mhm.
everyone's like, okay, that's kind of what we think of as what Gaster looks like, but like we don't even really know what he looks like. We still don't really know anything about him, but like everyone is fucking just on like, he has him by the fucking throats. Like
I
it's
did
like,
not realize that Deltarune is in the Undertale canon until I was talking with the turtle and he explained to me the Deltarune symbol, and I was like, it's a universe? I didn't know that. Like, that kind of like blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah, but then the connections are like crazy. Like
Right.
it's there are theories for how it's connected, but it's kind of like it. I mean, the most obvious interpretation, which feels like probably the route, is that it's like some kind of alternate timeline, but like because saving and loading is like such a thing, and like saving and loading means that there are like canonical alternate
branches.
timelines. Like every time you,
no, for sure.
yeah, every time you save the game and reload it, you're like creating a timeline, right? So it's like because of that, there's so much fucky shit that like the connections are still weird, but yeah, like is referred to as like the Deltarune symbol. There's really weird connections, but yeah, I mean that's
Well,
a
and like
Deltarune
that,
conversation.
the Deltarune like biblical story in Undertale of like an angel descending and either being the angel of death or like a savior. I can obviously see how that's supposed to be your character, but I could also see that it's vague enough that people could take that and apply it to something else. They could apply it to the first child, or they could apply it to stuff in Deltarune I don't know about. I presumably like
it's also heavily tied to like Azrael,
right.
because he like his final form is like called like the angel. It's like the god of like hyper death
like god, yeah, or
like
something.
Really,
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like but then yeah, like it can also like parallel. Yeah, like we still don't. There's a lot we don't know about the angels. So there's like so much like iceberg shit with
Right.
like Undertale where there isn't a right answer. You know, where it's like it really like fuels the like desire to like dig and get more knowledge, you know, like you are just rewarded so often for doing that.
I've not looked up anything like interview wise with Toby Fox, but like I have my own theories about what's inspired him. Like I really do I feel like he's a near replicant fan, because that lines up well with when this game came out and when that game came out. I know Earthbound is obviously like a huge inspiration, and it feels like the game is what's the city, the haunted city in Pokemon? Not Lily Cove.
My hometown. Fuck.
With the creepy music.
Why did you say Lily Cove? You ruined it by saying Lily Cove, and now I can't remember it.
I'll find it. But like the
oh my God.
The entire game feels like every screen could be that city.
Yeah. No, it's there's I like how it just like really leans into the
Lavender Town
fuel stuff, like Lavender.
The whole game, like every screen could be a Lavender Town, especially with like how the music changes. And I'm now getting that in my Genocide playthrough, where it's like the music becomes darker and creepier.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. It's like it feels like I think what you're saying about this like near connection is probably like because you say it came out in 2011.
I'm trying to remember because I've only ever played the remake of it.
2010.
2010, yeah. And this is like
yeah.
This game came out and it was pretty obscure at the time of its release. Like it's not. This is a game series that like built over time. It's also off the backs of another obscure game series called Drakengard.
Yeah,
but
then Toby Fox is like a gamer, so like I could definitely see that being true.
He seems like a big Japanese JRPG nerd, and this is like it's very much on the iceberg of that. But he also seems like a big internet nerd, and that it all blends together and influences and whatnot to make a really cool game.
Yeah, like the creepypasta, like the horror stories that people wrote that were like the idea that like, oh, there's these Easter eggs in games where like everything goes creepy and stuff. It's like he just put straight up creepypasta.
He just made that his game,
like, yeah, which is really cool. And then like also the what am I thinking? The I feel like the Earthbound references, because I have played a little bit of Earthbound. I didn't get too deep into it because I was playing it like while I was like staying with a friend on their like console. But yeah, I think that a lot more is like the kind of like humor and like the way of like when you like talk to and like interact, like you inspect an object and the game kind of is like, there's nothing here. Why do you keep clicking? Like that kind of stuff. Like that very much was like a Earthbound like invention that is like carried into this game.
Right.
So, but like a lot less of the metatextual stuff. So it's like I think if that was inspired from it anywhere, probably was like a lot less Earthbound, and could potentially be from Nier. Yeah, totally.
The Nier thing, it's the Undertale is probably the more famous example than Nier, because Nier is still pretty obscure itself. But like, it is. I know it's one of like a few games that people point to as far as like, this is how you do like gameplay as narrative, right? Like Nier does weird things with like your save files and the title screen of the game and perspectives. Like in that game, multiple playthroughs is a big part of Nier, both Nier games, but like in Automata, you actually change perspective and you're playing as a different character. In Nier, the original, you're playing as the same character every time. Like it's limited by budget and time, but this is the playthrough where it's actually from another character in your party's perspective, and you have to play both of them like 5 times to get at the true ending. But it is so rewarding if you go on that journey. Which I imagine is how people feel if they've done every playthrough of Undertale and seen all the different interactions with Flowey and like how the game. It seems like a very rewarding experience, I would assume, and it was for me just playing
definitely.
it once.
Yeah, I like that you committed though. Like I think that that's better, and like that's kind of how I tried to be mine, but like I was just so much more delicate of like I don't want to like fuck this up. Like it really got me with the guilt tripping thing. Like I was like I can't hurt these people. So like I was like, okay, like I'm gonna really seriously make sure that I like never click the fight button, you know? I am a huge fan of like weird meta stuff. Like I think that that's like a theme that like I didn't even think about like as a defining thing of like stuff I like very much until I started making a list of stuff to recommend you for this like show. I think that what is so cool about Undertale is the way that it really like ties that in with like the emotional core of the game. Like it's not just being meta for meta's sake. Like something like the Stanley Parable is like I've not played it. I've just like watched videos of Stanley Parable also, but like that is a lot more of like let's just like talk about video games and kind of have fun and have a laugh, and it's like you know, that's cool and it is what it is, but like I feel like it's uses the meta elements to like really rope you in and like make you like feel like this stronger connection, and like your choices like feel so much more impact. Like it really does rake you over the coals. And like I think when you first told me you killed Toriel, like because you texted me about it, it's like I think that like in my mind, like killing Toriel is almost like a canon part of the game in a weird way.
Right.
Like,
you have to fail to then like discover the right way to do things, right? Like resetting is part of the narrative. It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, like exactly. Like reset or like even if you don't reset, it's like you can kind of like get a pretty good ending to the game. Like Toriel is like a kind of unique of the main characters in that she like a lot of the like boss monsters like have these like interconnected relationships, which partially is like a way of like branching out all these different endings. So like
like Papyrus respects Undyne, like, Undyne's friends with Alphys, like it all like feeds back into each other. But Toriel's like retired off in a cottage, and I know that she's the queen. I put that together myself, and I was like, oh jeez, I know who that is.
Yeah, it's like she really only has the relationship to Asgore, and then like they like basically are separated, and even in like the best ending he's like, can we be friends again? And she's like, no, fuck you. So it's like a
you
pretty,
murdered
like,
6 children. Yeah.
He's like, but I was sorry. But like I think that like they also have these like interconnected relationships, because like in each ending like the characters you killed will impact the characters that lived in a way. And like
Undyne not being there allowed Mettaton to take over.
And is probably the reason why Alphys didn't talk to you, is because
Undyne's dead.
Like the true passive version, like they get together basically. Like
Mhm.
you help them like go on a date and everything. So it's like basically any ending where Mettaton or Undyne dies, like Alphys isn't part of the end of it.
Right.
And then so it's like, but like
But
Toriel's kind of
Toriel's
like this weird thing where like if you kill her, like you you still get some commentary. Like Sans used to like tell pun jokes to her through the door.
yes,
Apparently,
and I
but,
found that door, and I was like trying to figure out what it was as a puzzle, and you can't open it as far as I can tell. But then when that came up later, I was like, oh, I messed up.
yeah,
Because by that point, I'd kind of
definitely.
figured out like, oh, this person isn't coming back. Like that wasn't a tutorial. That was you do it right or you don't.
Even though her name is Tutorial.
I didn't realize that either.
Got it.
Toby Fox, bravo.
You should done me like this.
He can't
But
keep
yes.
getting away with it.
Yeah,
Really?
I think it's
Is that a real thing?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know if he's ever said like, yes, this was a joke, but it's like seems to be the case.
That's dumb. That's really good.
Yeah, that's really funny because it just looks like such a name. But yeah, like I think that like it just feels like you're kind of like that's your like room to failure, and then I can really envision a playthrough where you kill her and you feel so guilty, and then you're like resolved to not kill anyone else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
In
my mind is almost the canon playthrough, even though like True Pacifist is like the like
Save
community
everybody,
kind of
yeah.
considers that to be the canon playthrough. Like I almost view that as like the natural progression of like someone who's just like trying to engage with the game on like a narrative level and not like messing around with like trying to reset and like go back on their choices or whatever.
Well, Papyrus felt way easier to consider saving, right? Because he's so friendly with you, and he already
Exactly.
like shows you mercy. And even if you lose to him, he shows you mercy, which I didn't expect.
Yes.
Like I was like, oh, I've still not gotten a game over screen. I was expecting that to be my first death, and it wasn't.
Yeah. And you saying the garage thing, I'm pretty sure that happened to me too. Every boss beat me in this game.
The gameplay's hard. It took me a while. I think it gets easier and better the longer it goes through, because you have more options, but also
you get
just,
more
like,
variations and
you have more items. You have a better feel of the flow. Like it really clicked with me the longer I went.
definitely. Before we get out of this, music, were there any standout tracks for you?
Undyne's theme seemed really good. I assume there's like a even crazier like remix to it. Yeah. And I've heard that before. Like that just through osmosis.
I've played that in the car.
Yeah.
I definitely played that in the car in high school and I was like feeling it.
Yeah, Undyne's theme's incredible. I really liked a lot of the background music. I sent you this text, but there's a track in the bar in Snowden that I know for a fact like a million YouTubers have used, and I was just like, I know this music. I don't know how I know it, but I know it. A lot of the background tracks are really good. I can already feel myself wanting to like start crate digging to find the tracks that are like not on the official soundtrack, but that people have re-uploaded to use for my own videos. Because like that's always a struggle to find good background music, and I usually use video game music because it's not really copyrighted as much, or it's not as enforced. And I don't know how to make music, and I don't want to have a lot of money or budget for my own videos. But I can already feel myself being like, I need to grab that backing track. I need to grab that backing track. Like, that's great. I said earlier, but like the Dog Casino track, I think is really like groovy and vibey. Just good times.
Oh,
overall.
yes. You said that, and I didn't. When you said groovy and vibey, it finally clicked which track you're talking about. Yeah, like, oof, that one hits really well.
It's a good time.
What did you think of Temmie's song?
It's really annoying.
Temmie
I'd also heard the Temmie song before. That one? Yeah. Yeah, I had heard that one before.
No, is that Dog Song?
I think of Dog Song, yeah. The Temmie one, I don't remember
Temmie
how
song
it
is
goes,
good.
but I remember being in that village and being like, this is like nails on a chalkboard. I have got to get out of this village.
You could not tear me out of the village. I like kind of like off-putting music. That's a known fact about me. and like I don't know, I loved just soaking in that village, and it was just so like playing that game and not knowing that Temmie is like the main artist and just like a close friend of
Oh, I didn't know that
Toby
either.
Fox. Yeah,
I saw it in
it's
the
like
credits because I was really
he
curious.
just made
When
yeah
there's like credits that like a game made by essentially one person, it's usually like a localization. But I saw like original artist
right.
drawing for Temmie, and like it was a name I didn't recognize. But I was
Hmm.
like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah, no, Temmie is like probably the second most involved person in like any
Gotcha.
like Undertale Deltarune project. I know that she also released a game called Dweller's Empty Path, which I've been wanting to play, and like delving this deep, I've been like, oh, I should go into that, but like
Well, then I have an exciting
uh,
news for you.
just
We're playing. No, that's not my pitch.
having a whole village dedicated to roasting your friend is
Right.
just so fucking iconic
It's a
to
good
me.
bit.
And like the way that the text is written is so specific and so like exactly on point. Like there are no deviations where it feels forced. Like it
Mhm.
really feels like you're talking to like this like fucking like 12-year-old girl in like MSN like Messenger. Like it's just so consistent, and the humor there is like egg will hatch. It's like it's just so fucking cringe.
It's striking a very specific tone for sure.
Yeah, like I don't know. I love stuff like
The
that.
the
That
dog
when you
that
said
has
that you
the
found Temmie Village, that was gonna be my main thing. That if you didn't find Temmie Village, I was gonna be like, you need to
you
go
need to
back.
look up
you
to
need
me
to do another
Village.
playthrough.
Yeah, it was pretty hidden
Like
too.
I'm like kill whoever you want, but like you gotta go to Temmie
Go
Village
look at the
just to get
dogs.
the full experience. Yeah.
The only thing the standout for me in that village was the dog that has the allergic reaction because it's like really weird and dark, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, and I left. I felt really bad for the
So
dog.
funny. So Sam, how would you rate Undertale?
I think I was thinking about this morning. If I had played this in 2015, I'd come to it on my own, and it didn't have to suffer the passage of time, and it didn't have to suffer being like in the cosmos or the osmosis of internet culture for 9 years. It probably would have hit
Yeah,
for
like
me a
ruining
lot harder.
the surprises.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
ruining the surprises and stuff.
yeah, ruining the surprises, right? Like just seeing Sans and being like, well, I know who that is, and Papyrus and whatnot. It definitely like cut out some of the appreciation. That being said, I think it's a very, very well made product. I think it's a very, in terms of like singular vision, that really works. Like Toby Fox, I think I have a lot of respect for him now as a creator. It's incredible that this was made with RPG Maker. It's incredible that like one person made this and like truly from like cradle to grave made their vision and saw it through to the end, right? And made like a really impressive game. And for that reason, it's a B. I really set you up there, I felt like. But yeah, it to me
I was worried that you were gonna hate it. So
No,
I'm
I do-
like pretty overall I'm feeling pretty good.
I
about
definitely don't hate it. It is not like S tier, right, would be like this is the Sam canon. Like this is my top 10
Yeah.
media of all time. A tier is like this is my favorite thing I've played, experienced, etc. this year, and then B tier is like below that. And I think it's like that's about where it fits. I'll come up with names eventually.
Definitely.
But
That makes sense.
for now, yeah, it is a B. It's a very, very good B. And I can understand people who for which it would be an S. Well, so I was doing some more thinking over the weekend, right? We've done an anime.
Okay.
We have done a game. And so I think now it is time to go back to Sam stuff. So far we've covered media that like is very important to either of us, right? Dawn is like the manga I've been obsessed with for the last 2 years. Really love it, have done videos on it, etc. Undertale is very Mallory coded. It's one of your favorite games. So I thought it'd be interesting to pick something that we both don't have a huge attachment to. And maybe I'm just not very creative because it's literally the last thing I read. I read it this past week along with playing Undertale. But I'm going to pitch to you a manga. It's 29 chapters. It's called Solanin, I think is how you say it. Solanin. And it's about a girl who quit her job and has a boyfriend who's in a band. I had heard about this series for a long, long time, as far as like considered one of the better single volume or like volume and a half long manga, but I'd never read it. It's by the author who did Goodnight Pun Pun, which is sitting behind me. And it's very different from that series, but I think we could have a really interesting conversation on it. And I literally finished it 2 days ago, and I'm going to reread it for this coming episode. So I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm honestly excited because I've never heard the title.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I like that this is going to be one that I get to go in like fully blank. Cause like Dandadan was like, you'd been talking about it for years, and like I'd kind of started to like see like the trailers about it and everything. And like, even Goodnight Pum Pum, like it's not like crazily well known, but like you told me about it.
I would say, this author,
I've watched
Inio
your video
Asano.
on Goodnight Pum. Or no, did you make a?
I haven't made a Pun Pun video. No, it
You just talked to me about it.
I have, yeah.
It felt like a video.
Pun Pun's really weird to me because it's a series that I've only read once, and for whatever reason I finished it, and I was like, well, I gotta own this, and so I have the entire collection behind me. It's like these rainbow colored volumes. I would say this author is like the number one alt manga recommendation. Like, there are the classic adult manga recommendations that everyone gives, like you gotta read Berserk or Vinland Saga or Vagabond or Nana. Like there's certain series that are always in the conversation, and I think this is like a tier below that. It's like real manga heads know kind of conversation, which I think is like a gatekeepy way to say it, but I think it's how people talk about this author. This is only my second series I've read from this person, but I have a lot of opinions on both, and I will save those for our next episode.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and I wanted to do a manga before we got too far in.
No, definitely. I'm looking forward. I don't read manga normally. I've been trying to more. I've been buying every gay manga.
Do you have Green Yuri?
I have.
Do you know what I'm talking about? The bright green Yuri? You do. There it is.
Like because I'm like, I gotta support what's going on. So
I see.
Yeah, I definitely like. I've been like getting into. I'm like, this is a pretty cool medium. But yeah, I'll see how I like it. But yeah, thank you all for watching Nobody Leaves. If you'd like to read Solanin, you should do that.
You should do that, and you should do it through legal methods, which are possible, I'm sure, if you Google and figure it out. It's also one volume, so you could just buy it. I have mine coming in the mail right now.
Library.
You go to the library.
They might have it.
Library's great resource for legally consuming manga, which is what Mallory's going to do, obviously.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun note to end on. Thanks as always for
See you
watching.
next week. Have a good day, Sam.
We have really got to work on our intros and outros.
It's I say have a good day, Sam, and then you say
have a good night, Mallory.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect.